This is episode 3 of a Childlike podcast. Um, the the release schedule is erratic than I was planning on, but I think going forward, I'm gonna aim for Wednesdays and do just record after I watch that week's episode of X-Men, since that's basically the primary um the primary topic of the show at the moment. Um, so that said, we'll get right into it. So we'll talk about first, since usually I put these out like a day or two before the new episode drops. But like I said, we'll just do the episode on the day. So last week, that was the Motendo / Life Death Part One, which called Life Death. But I think everybody did. That's kind of obvious because that's where Storm loses her powers. Um, but the Motendo thing, that was that was a lot of fun. Just doing the kind of clip show rerun thing of a lot of the older episodes in a uh, X-Men arcade style. Um, it was kind of just fun filler, which there was. I have nothing against that. More fun X-Men stuff is always welcome, especially when it has to do with Mojo. Mojo is just a lot of fun, always has been. Um, but the real highlight for me for that's half of the episode was the Jubilee meeting her older digital clone, which I thought was um a really fun twist, a really fun way to do that. And the fact that they got, which, and I was thinking when when I watched it, I was like, it'd be really cool if they had um the original voice actors for Jubilee doing this older version of her. And funny enough, that's exactly what was going on, because I didn't really uh I it sounded like her, but I was like, I mean, maybe not. Maybe it was, especially considering the reasoning that Jubilee was recast. Because um, I mean, I'm pulling up the name right now, because the original actress Allison Court is not Asian, and the character Jubilee is, and she felt that for the sake of the representation, for the sake of the message of the show, that um, somebody of Asian descent should be playing Jubilee. That, and Jubilee is the kid, and obviously Allison Court is no longer a kid. She probably could still voice one because the new voice actress isn't either, but she is Asian and younger, so it works out. But for that reason, I was like, as much as it sounds like her, maybe not. Maybe this is Holly Chu just doing an older voice. But no, I found out afterward that it was indeed Allison Court, and I just thought that was really cool. It was nice to have um, the OG actress still having a part as the same character too in the show. Because there are a couple other actors who from the original show who are in it, but not as the character they originally played, like uh, Jean Grey's original voice actor. Trying to remember. Give me a second. I'm gonna go. Her name is. Okay, Catherine Disher as Val Cooper. Um, she was the original voice actress for Jean, but for whatever reason, she didn't come back, which is I found somewhat odd because she was never. I mean, she's not that. She doesn't seem like she's that much older than the actress that they have playing her now. Um, that being Jennifer Hale. Jennifer Hale is not a young woman at all. That sounds worse than I intended. She's not old, but she's not young. Um, so I'm not sure. Maybe it was like a just a she didn't want to do it or whatever. I'm not sure. But either way, it's cool that she's in it. In a role, even if it's not a prominent role at that, even if it's not as Jean. Um, but then and I think there's another one too, and I can't remember now. Um, but anyway, oh, I think Gambit. The Gambit voice actor, the original, is in there somewhere. I think, just not as Gambit. Anyway, but yeah, so the whole Motendo thing, getting to see more of Sunspot using his powers, uh, giving a which um it's really more and more we're getting to see like every character, every episode, full of characters who really get to shine. They get the spotlight. And if you've seen this most recent episode, you know that that's very much the case for one character in particular. But but yeah, the Jubilee really got to shine. Um, which I've always been a fan of Jubilee. She's always been the joke character of the X Men, one of many. But I've always really liked Jubilee, going back to even going back to the original show and all that. You know, I just think her powers are cool. Um, oh, sorry, I got something stuck in my teeth. Anyway, but yeah, and then you get into the life death part of the episode where we get to see more of Forge, which is always fun for me. I love Forge. Forge is of the more, I guess, quote unquote obscure X Men characters, which he's not even all that obscure comparatively speaking. When you look at some of the other guys like fucking Beak, um, but Forge is one of my favorite of the guys who you don't see all the time. Um, anyway, but Forge, we got to see some more of him. The guy doing his voice, I don't know if he's the guy who was in the original show, in the Days of Future Past episodes. Um, but he's doing a great job. He's killing it, and of course, Storm is, she's been one of the MVPs of the show so far, especially in that first episode. But getting to see more of her was cool. I really liked the just their conversation, um, and the where they're the setting too. But the conversation that they had about um, and I haven't watched it. I should have watched it before I started recording again, but I haven't watched it since it came out. Actually, that's the only episode so far, other than the one that came out today, that I haven't seen at least twice. Um, but it was a good conversation. I remember sitting there and being like, yeah, this is good. This is good stuff. This is really well written, and that's something. Um, I'll get into that when we get into the next episode because it's way more relevant for that one. Um, but yeah, and then seeing that Forge is the one who designed, or at least the one who started the designs for the inhibitor collars, which were retrofitted to create, the weapon that took Storm's powers. That's nuts. Um, that being helping Storm being Forge's whole his redemption arc of sorts. That's fun. I'm interested in that. Um, Storm and Forge have always been a dynamic that I enjoyed. Um, but yeah, I don't have a whole lot else to say on that episode. Um, Today's episode though, holy Jesus. Uh, just to start from the beginning, I guess. You have you're going to everyone's going to Genosha. Genosha is officially recognized as a sovereign state, and the X-Men are being interviewed in the mansion. And it opens with that really funny line from Beast. Blue blushes too, my dear. I really enjoyed that. I love Beast. Beast is one of my favorite X-Men. Um, I know in the recent X-Force run, he's been like the main villain. I haven't read that. I'm interested, but at the same time, I love Beast, and I don't want to see him be a bad guy, because Beast to me is exactly this from this show. So, um, and also X Men Evolution, which I'm gonna get to later. But he's really great in that as well. But um, but yeah, that line from him and the fact that he was indeed blushing was just really funny to me. And then the whole dynamic between Magneto, Gambit, and Rogue, because obviously, Magneto and Rogue are having this. I almost said something else. That would have been that would be a far more interesting dynamic, I think. But Magneto and Rogue are having this kind of uh, this thing, and so Magneto and Gambit and Rogue are a love triangle deal going, which is um, interesting. Um, because Gambit and Rogue were always they never went steady in the show. They were always just kind of this will they won't they kind of cat and mouse fun time kind of thing. And but because of his powers, Magneto can touch Rogue, which of course is has historically always been attractive to her for obvious reasons. So we're getting to see a whole lot more of that, which is obviously something that's been um, teased at since the second episode. Um, so I really like where that ended up. um, and oh, and Nightcrawler showed up, and there was a lot of callbacks to my personal favorite episode of the original series, which was the Nightcrawler episode in the at the monastery. That's my favorite episode of that of the original. Not just because Nightcrawler, who is one of my favorite X Men, but just in general, it's another one of those um, another great example of why I love X Men in general. Um, just the kind of stories that you can tell with those characters, and um, this very much builds on that episode. Funny enough, but he shows up. He looks great. He sounds like the original voice actor too. And actually, I didn't look that up, but I'm about to. But if it wasn't him, it sounded exactly like him. Um, I mean, it sounded just like him. So I'm gonna go look at that real quick. Um, but he's a character who uh benefits greatly from this animation style. I think. Just the way that they show his powers, how he moves, it's really cool. And they have him all over the place. Let's see. Adrian Huff. I don't know how to pronounce that. Um, were you Mr. Nightcrawler in the original series? He's in a lot of stuff. Jeez, he's one of those guys who's just in everything. Holy Wow. He's Hatham Kenway in Assassin's Creed 3. That is insane. That's insane. Hold on. If that is the original voice actor, that would make me so happy. Doesn't look. Oh, yes, he was. Nice. That's awesome. That's awesome. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, Nightcrawler in X Men Original and X Men '97 is also Hatham Kenway. So that's awesome. That's really cool. Um, all right then. Anyway, um, that's cool. But yeah, so obviously he was great. Just as good as he was back in the day. Clearly he's a very talented voice actor. Just based on those two credentials alone. Um, but getting to see Genosha and all of the mutants that the little Easter egg mutants that you see, like I still don't know the guy's name. Um, the Jello guy whose insides are completely visible with the big bug eyes. I see him in the comics a lot, but still cannot remember his name. It's cool to see him. Um, Dazzler at the Hellfire Gala, which it's crazy that we got to see the Hellfire Gala in in animation. That was sick. I was happy to own that. But Dazzler is another one of those obscure, not so obscure X Men characters that I'm a big fan of. I don't even really know why. I've always thought she was cool. I couldn't tell you why. Her power, but even then, I don't know. She's cool. Um, there's a very upset baby upstairs. Um, but yeah. And then what happened? Oh, Scott's interview. S- Scott's kind of showing his era of personality peeking through. He's kind of old Magneto, which is interesting, especially considering what happens to, or what potentially happens to Magneto in this episode. Um, they could do something with that, and I'm really interested to see where they take that. Um, because so much has happened with the X Men since that original series, and they can adapt those modern stories into that classic setting. Which that's one of the things I'm most excited about this show. Um, is just that potential. But like he goes off about how humans are they're ungrateful and how they're not like mutants, and the line is you're not like or we're not like you, thank God, because that's the only reason you people are still alive, is how he puts it. Paraphrasing obviously, but it was a really well done scene. That goes into Scott and Madeline, who is a member of the council on Genosha, which is cool. Um, Scott and Madeline have a kind of psychic affair thing that is so infamous from the comics, except with, in the comics it was Emma, not Madeline. And it's interesting how they're doing Madeline in this too, because originally Madeline didn't have those powers. And, Scott, that she was never under the impression that she was Jean Grey, Madeline Pryor from the beginning. Which is a big change, from the outset. But also, originally, as soon as Scott found out Jean was still alive, he kicked Madeline and Nate to the curb to go be with her, to go be with Jean. In this, it's kind of the roles are almost reversed, where he's stuck on Madeline because obviously she's the mother of his son, but also it's like, is she the one that he married? Obviously, she was the one that he conceived with. So, I mean, really, obviously, again, he thought that she was Jean this whole time, but I really like the way they're doing this because it's not a simple situation, and they're not giving it a simple resolution. Um, and Jean is kind of, she's really not sure how to deal with it either. I mean, she called Madeline an it in this episode, which I mean is understandable, but also considering how they left things in episode 3 after the whole Inferno thing. I mean, you would think that they'd be on better terms than that, but clearly Jean still holds some animosity toward Madeline, especially now considering that she caught them having a thing in his mind, which is it's really um something I wasn't expecting, but I'm really happy to see because as much as we got to see how dope Cyclops can be as an X-Man, we're also getting to see how flawed and morally gray Scott can be when he's under pressure. So we're seeing really both sides of the character, and I'm really appreciating that. And then we get that really nice, or actually no, the conversation between Jean and Logan happens before before that. That was a nice episode too. And Logan is Wolverine is very much, he seems like a really a background character, but he's the guy who comes from the background and like just starts, he has that heavy commentary on especially anything going on between Scott and Jean. He's that guy who's like perspective, you know. And then Jean in a moment of not knowing what's going on really kisses Logan, which obviously Jean's confused as hell. She's not even totally sure that she is Jean Grey, I think, at this point. But I really liked Logan's reaction to that because he was like, oh, this is exactly what I want, but it's not, this isn't right, you know? He's like, I really like the line. It was, he's Scott Summers, you're Jean Grey. That's just the rules. You forgot it for a minute. That's all. And then told her to go talk to Scott. I like Logan's morality coming out there. He pushes. He's pushing to get to her this whole time, and then he gets there, and he's like, "Wait a minute, you know, this is wrong. This isn't. This doesn't feel the way it's supposed to." So I appreciated that. Oh man, and then I guess we'll just get into it. We get into the Hellfire Gala, right? And then you get that wide shot of the sky and the island and everything right above the ballroom or whatever, and just faintly in the sky you see the Watcher, and I saw that and I was like, ah, oh, fuck, out loud. And my son, sitting right next to me, um, he was like, "What's the matter?" And I was like, "Well, that's the Watcher, and when he's around, something big is about to happen." And oh boy, did it! So I saw Watcher and I was like, all right, this is going bad, which I already had a feeling because everything seemed so quote unquote good. Um, so I knew something was gonna happen, but then I see the Watcher and I'm like, oh, the something is gonna be something big, but I had no freaking idea. All right, I had no clue, none. Um, so we get to the Hellfire Gala and everybody shows up dressed up. I really like what Gambit was wearing with the scarf thing around his shoulders. That was dope. Gambit in this episode he was the highlight of this episode. He's the one who got the spotlight in a big way. Um, but I completely glossed over the whole Rogue Magneto thing. Um, so the council wants Magneto, to lead Genosha, which is classically what he does. And his stipulation is that he gets to rule alongside a quote unquote queen in Rogue, and she, you know, she's torn because she sees it as an opportunity to both to be with somebody who she can touch, but more than that, she sees it as an opportunity to do real good on a larger scale, which, as she says in the episode, is the whole reason she joined the X-Men in the first place. And we get a little bit of flashback to how how that started between her and Magneto, and what that's all about when she's explaining it to Gambit, and that was a really great interaction. I'll go ahead and get into that here because between Gambit and Magneto, especially the the writing for the dialogue in this show is just insane. It's so good. The dialogue in the show is so good, especially coming from Magneto most of the time. Like when especially the scene at the UN in that second episode. Um, but just Magneto and Gambit in this episode had just some of the best lines in the series. Um, uh, and I'm struggling to think of any great line. Oh, the one um, he what he said about Charles and the two things that lead to an early grave. I can't remember the exact quote. Like I said, I've only watched it once, which was like an hour ago. So, um, but yeah, it's all good. It's all really good. But to get back to it, at the Hellfire Gala, everybody's we get to see the more dancing, which I've always found to be really awkward in animation, dancing scenes of any kind. This show, however, which funny enough is some unexpected DNA from X-Men Evolution, because the dancing scenes in that show are really fluidly animated for some reason. um, but in this, it's really, really well animated, and it doesn't look at all, weird, awkward, and unnatural like it usually does in animation. And especially the Rogue and Magneto dancing. When they were flying, that was just really smoothly animated. And getting to see everybody using their powers on the dance floor is just a really cool. It's something that you don't see a whole lot from superhero media like this, and you really only see stuff like this in X-Men media, which I think is really cool. Um, but where did we go from? Oh, right. And obviously Gambit storms out, and Madeline follows him. But then you get the confrontation between Jean and Scott, and all of that. That's all questioning. But then you get this, like, it almost looked like she gets shot in the head. Jean does. It's like this psychic flash through her forehead, and then Madeline gets the same thing at the gala, and their noses start bleeding, and she goes outside, and fucking Cable shows up, and he's like trying to warn everybody, like trying to get everybody off the island, and she looks in his eyes, and it's sees the color of his eyes that Scott was mentioning in their psychic affair thing, and she's like, "Oh shit, Cable is my son," and you get that realization, and Cable affirms it when he gets sucked back in time, and then freaking Master Mold shows up with the three heads. I can't remember if that's. I'm gonna look that up real quick while I'm talking, but and just starts nuking the place. I mean that was intense, and then it just kept getting intense. Like the um half the Hellfire Club are dead. The half the Morlocks are dead. Uh uh, what's her name? The head Morlock. Uh, can't believe I'm. Anyway, she's dead, and then Leech and all the rest of the Morlocks are hiding, and everybody's you know running, and then you get that sick scene of Gambit and Rogue heading to go. save the Morlocks, and oh damn, ugh, going to save the Morlocks, and there's just a lot of really nice yeah, it is the mashed mold. Callisto, that's her name. Callisto. Anyway, um, and just what Gambit, everything Gambit does in this episode is just the sickest. Like I love Gambit. Gambit is one of my favorite X-Men characters. Period. But everything he does is just so freaking good. Um, but then it's just I'm having trouble talking about it because it was just so much so fast. Like I mentioned it briefly earlier, but it looks like Magneto's dead, and Gambit is dead. He gets impaled and then blows himself up by charging the thing that Master Mold impaled him with, which goes all the way to Master Mold and then blows him up while Gambit's impaled on him. That was crazy. I gotta watch it again. I'm probably gonna watch it again as soon as I'm done recording this. It was nuts. I cannot wait to see where they go with this. But that's what I was saying about earlier about Scott and what happens with Magneto in this episode. If he is dead and Scott is on the path that he's on, Scott could end up being you know, he could end up going down that schism road that he did with and in AVX. He could end up doing that, and that could be like the plot for season 2. Like if that ends up being the plot of season 2, where and it's basically Wolverine versus Cyclops, that would if they do Schism in season 2, that would be fantastic. Um, and the fact that this is all happening, we're halfway through the first season. We still got 5 episodes left. 5. We're only 5 in. There are 10 episodes. This was episode 5. This is the middle season episode. I know I said that 4 different times, but I just need you to understand that something this big happening in the middle of the season is nuts, and I have no idea where they're gonna go after this. I literally have no clue. It's just like so. This is what Jean or what I guess Madeline felt in that first episode when she was looking for Gyrick or not Gyrick. What's his freaking name? Um, Trask. Like this is what she felt. She's been saying she felt something horrible coming since the first episode. This was it. That I mean, and we even got a tease at it in episode 3 with Inferno, the giant mashed mold coming out with the devil horns and stuff. I mean, oh man, I can't gush enough about this. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut it there, so I can move on to the rest of the show. But yeah, this is peak X Men. Like it doesn't get better than this. Like it's just so good, dude. It's so good. I'm so happy with it. Um. Anyway, moving on. Um. Bad Batch. That today's episode was really good. So there's actually 3 episodes to catch up on this week. They dropped 2 last week. Um. They were good. They felt kind of fillery, except for the end of last episode where Omega and Crosshair's plan goes not so great, and Omega ends up going back to Tantus with the shitbird. I forget his name. But then this episode, I really liked this one because you the Batch are going on a mission to go find the bad guy from that first season, and figure out where Tantus is, since Crosshair wasn't able to tag the ship with the tracker. But Echo, or not Echo, fucking Omega gets to she's getting to see everything that they're pushing for with Project Necromancer, which it's really cool that they're going through and setting this all up in this show, because it like this follows through to Mandalorian and what Gideon was trying to do, which follows from which then goes on to uh, uh, Rise of Skywalker, with the Emperor was doing with Snoke and obviously himself, and that's it could be really cool, and it is until you get to Rise of Skywalker. And if they had just planted those seeds throughout the sequel trilogy, and it not and not had the somehow Palpatine has returned line, and the fact that you that is revealed in the opening crawl of the galaxy wide message isn't even in the movies, it's in freaking Fortnite, could have been really cool. And it's really not. But it's cool here. It's cool in Bad Batch and Mandalorian, and I actually pointed out to my wife this morning watching it, is they're basically trying to do here what Gideon was trying to do with Grogu in in the Mandalorian, which it really goes, how early. It's cool to see how early this was. Palpatine had this one planned, like it's cool, and to see, and it shows that Gideon was like he was kind of co-opting this plan for himself, but it was there from the beginning, pretty much. Like Palpatine had this plan. He knew that this is what he was gonna do from the outset, and I think that that's really cool that they're setting that up this early on. Bad Batch is good, guys. It's really good. I really like Bad Batch. But But yeah, it was a good episode. I don't have as much gushing to do about Bad Batch as I do X Men. That's my wife's territory more than it is mine. But it was good. It was really good. What is more my territory though? Invincible, which, like a dummy, I forgot to talk about last week. And realized I forgot to talk about it. Like right after I hit stop on the record, I was like, "Son of a bitch! I forgot about Invincible." So I immediately after that last episode went and typed up um, uh, a notes list of things to talk about. So I actually have segments and things listed under those segments. So like TV review every week, which obviously Invincible's not going to be a part of it after this week, but X Men and Bad Batch going forward until those shows are done, and then I guess whatever I end up watching after that, maybe I'll throw. I don't know if I get back into watching WWE regularly, I'll throw that in because WrestleMania kind of woke it back up for me, uh, which I'll talk about toward the end of the show. But and then there's like news topics like casting or whatever, different things, trailers, which it's pretty light this week, but and then I've got rumors, which are whatever buzz is going around, which I don't have a whole lot personally um, that I've heard that I've put much stock into or really care to talk about. And then just whatever I'm reading, which this week will pretty much only be Ultimate X Men, because everything else I'm reading that I've talked about thus far haven't released their final issues yet. Um, and then I'll do like a weekly chat topics, which we might not get. I have a couple written down. Um, for this week, we might not get to all of them. Like I said, WrestleMania is one of those. I've already gone longer than I thought I would. I really rambled about X Men today. So we probably won't get through all of them. Definitely gonna talk about WrestleMania though. Uh, I'll I'll probably touch on X Men Evolution too. The other one, we'll see. Anyway, so back on topic. Invincible. Last week episode, or not last week, the week before last episode, the penultimate of the season. That was a really good one. Getting to see Anissa show up, and especially after the way that she impacted everything going on between Mark and Amber. You know, especially after the episode before that where uh, they sat down with Eve and the costume maker guy whose name I'm Mark Hamill. We'll just call him Mark Hamill. Sitting down with Eve and Mark Hamill, and you know, having that talk and getting their shit together, kind of. And then they're out on a date and they're having a good day, and then fucking Anissa shows up, threatens Amber, and then it goes after that. It's pretty much beat for beat from the comic, which I really appreciated. And those of you who don't read the comics, which I know several people, pretty much everybody I know who hasn't read the comics has no idea what's coming unless they looked ahead. Anissa is bad news, and I'm kind of scared for public reaction to that. You know, because there's so many people who never read Invincible, um, and are just on it for the show. Which, you know, that's fine. Honestly, I think the series is better than I think the Amazon series is better than the comic was in a lot of ways, just in the way that they adapted everything. Um, but especially considering the reaction to Amber, I'm really not excited to see what happens after when we get to that with Anissa. But anyway, um, but yeah, that was really good, and um, just the conversation between Mark and Amber, it wasn't explosive. There wasn't like misunderstandings. It was just, you know, wait, I can't do this. You know, it was a conversation that I think um, has kind of been the point of the way that their relationship has been depicted from the beginning, and I think it's a really good progression from season one. Which I was never an Amber hater to begin with. I've always felt that it was a very accurate representation of teenage love, especially considering the uh, the abnormal nature of it. But anyway, I know that's not a popular opinion. Um, but then you get into that finale, and I had heard rumors. Like I knew that Josh Keaton was going to be uh, in the episode. Everybody did. I'd heard rumors. Everybody said that he was going to be playing a version of Spectacular Spider-Man, which would have been really sick. It didn't happen. I wasn't surprised. You know, I knew that it was. I wasn't expecting Spider-Man. I was kind of disappointed that he wasn't in it, but you know, it is what it is. Spider-Man legally is historically a total pain in the ass. Um, so I don't blame Amazon for not wanting to deal with that. Either way, it was cool, and it seems like people, it seems like the internet embraced Agent Spider, quote unquote, pretty quickly. I think like the next day there was a mod in Spider-Man remastered on PC for Agent Spider skin. So I'm not, it was cool. I thought it was cool. Like the rest of that episode, especially once, uh, what Mark does to Levy was like the way that they portrayed that in the show. I think hit a lot harder than in the comic because it really harped on Mark's um, his angst at having taken somebody's life, especially as brutally as he did, and to say nothing to Steven Yeun's performance because dude's killing it. I mean, I don't want to say he's running circles around anybody, but holy shit, dude! I mean, he is killing it. He is so good in this show. He's so good. Um, I mean, he's on the level uh with J.K. Simmons easily. And Simmons is obviously way more experienced both in live action and in animation. And Steven Yeun is just killing it. He is killing it. I'm loving his performance so far. And where this season left off, having seen all the evil multiversal versions of Mark, um, next season's going to be Invincible War. I mean, there's no way it's not. I won't get into that because I know people who listen to this podcast and don't want spoilers, but Invincible War is nuts. So next season's going to be insane, and I'm really looking forward to it. But yeah, Invincible was great. Season 2 was fantastic, just as good as season 1, in my opinion. Oh, the the scene at the con with where he asked about Seance Dogs season 2. That was so funny, dude. It was funny in the comic and it was funny in the show. And I know people who were like took it personally. They're like, oh, they're talking shit about the fans who were wondering why it took so long. It's like, no, they're not. You're just being sensitive. Shut up. They're taking a joke from the comic that was um and adapted it into the show. I guarantee you that was there from the beginning. There's no way it wasn't because that's one of the most famous scene or pages from that comic, easily by far. There's literally no way that it was not there from the beginning, and they just took the fact that it took 3 years to get season 2 as the and used it as you know they added that to it. There's no way that it wasn't. And the fact that they adapted it so perfectly to the animation, the media of animation, where the original was specifically about comics, it was great. It was so well done. Robert Kirkman's a genius, and so is Seth Rogen. Thank you, Seth Rogen. I love you. Um, but yeah. Anyway, Invincible season 2 was fantastic. I was really happy with it. Um, Moving on to news, we got casting for Silver Surfer. I'm looking forward to it. Oh wait, no, we talked about that last week, didn't we? Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. I'm dumb. Anyway, it was whatever. I like it. I still like it. I liked it then. I like it now. Um, there was a new look at Johnny Storm for it was a poster for 4/4 Day, whatever. That was cool. Uh, I don't really have anything else to say about that. Um, I woke up this morning, saw at CinemaCon the official logo for James Gunn's Superman was revealed, which is just a metallic, red and yellow Kingdom Come symbol, which, I mean, it's to be expected, but it looks good. I'm looking forward to that. And got a few more, like, promotional images for Deadpool and Wolverine leaked. One showing Deadpool and the Deadpool core. So we got Headpool, Kidpool, Dogpool, and was Lady Deadpool in there? Can't remember. If Kidpool is not Walker Skullbell, I'm gonna be mad. I'll just I'll just put that out there right now. If Walker Skullbell is not playing Kidpool in Deadpool and Wolverine, I'm gonna be pissed. Because he was so good as a young Ryan Reynolds in the Atom Project. That it would be insane for them to not capitalize on that in this movie. But anyway, also I'm seeing the rumor that Headpool is going to be the decapitated head of the X Men Origins Deadpool, because that end credit scene that apparently wasn't in every version of the movie. I didn't know that. But that end credit scene where Deadpool is revealed to have survived his extreme haircut at the hands of Wolverine. Um, I really hope that's the case because that would just be really funny. But I guess we'll see. Um, oh, and the theater cups got revealed, so we get our first quote unquote official image of Logan in the mask, which we already saw that exact image on leaked promotional art months ago. But whatever, it's cool to see it in an official capacity. Um, I'm definitely going to be getting one of those. Uh, I have a small collection of theater cups. It used to be bigger, but I've lost a couple of them along the way. But anyway, yeah, I'm excited. I'm so excited for that movie. That's my number one movie for this year because I mean, it's been 24 years at this point that we've been waiting to see Hugh Jackman in a Wolverine suit, like an actual yellow suit, and now we're finally getting it, and I cannot wait. I'm so excited. Um, when Hot Toys releases that figure, I'm buying it immediately. I'll sell my house for that thing. Um, moving on to trailers. We got the trailer for Joker Folie à Deux. Really excited. Well. I mentioned this last week. Um, Funny enough, I even said that it would be dropping on the day that or the date or around the same time as when I do this podcast. I'm glad that I decided to push it. I wasn't even thinking about it when I made that decision, but they didn't release that trailer until last night, so it worked out. I didn't even watch it till this morning, but it looks good. I expected it would look good. Um, I'm excited to see what they do with it because I was a big fan of the first movie, and I went into that a lot last week. But just based on the trailer, it looks basically more of the same, which is not a bad thing. Um, I'm excited to see Gaga as Harley, which even more so from this trailer. We get more of Joaquin Phoenix working his magic. Um, I'm really curious to see how the musical elements of it are, how that works, like what that's going to be, if you know what I mean. Like how is how is that going to be integrated into the story? How is it going to be explained? I mean, they're both nuts, so you can work it pretty easily, I would think, but I'm just curious to see how they're going to do it. It also looks really intense. Like there's like explosions and guns and everything. I'm really looking forward to it. And then we got the gameplay trailer for Ermac for MK1. I'm really excited for Ermac. He looks so much better with the mask. Which even in game, uh, in the story mode, I thought that he looked pretty cool. Definitely way better than he did in that first initial combat pack reveal trailer. But now that they've given him a mask, that's one of my favorite looks for Ermac, and his gameplay looks fantastic too. Um, I like the kind of ethereal teal that they gave his soul power effects. That looks really good. Um, and Movado looks like the best version of Movado, which you don't need that much of an improvement for it to be an improvement, if you know what I mean. Um, it looks like Movado. I'm looking forward to it. I guess I don't know. Ermac looks great though. I can't wait to play him. April 16th. So next week. Nice. Um, Ultimate X Men. That new issue. Not a whole lot happened. It looks like it's gonna be going at kind of a snail's pace. We did get Storm though. Japanese Storm, which I'm interested in, especially considering that Storm shows up in Black Panther as well, unless that's not Storm. But she had electric and wind powers and has lightning bolt earrings and white hair. So I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna do with that. I guess we'll see. Also, Japanese Shadow King is interesting. Um, I kind of had a hunch that that's who that was gonna be. The Shadow Man guy. Um, in that first issue, but then you see the fat dude with the little spectacles. It's definitely Shadow Man or Shadow King. It's there's no way it's not. So I'm looking forward to that too. It's interesting. I'm really looking forward to seeing where the X Men part comes into it because we're obviously seeing mutants pop up, but it's all very manga esque. So I'm intrigued, and I'm interested to see how it fits into the larger new Ultimate Universe. Um, that's pretty much the only issue of anything that I talk about on here that's out so far for this month. Um, I'm gonna branch out a little bit more, but I think I'm going to because most of the other things I'm reading are kind of just it's long running. And I'm not really starting from the beginning, so that's kind of why I've mostly just been focusing on the Ultimate Marvel stuff. But um, we'll I'm gonna try to integrate a more streamlined like what are you reading kind of segment. So we'll see how that works out. Um, so WrestleMania was really good. Like um, night one was a lot just a lot of good matches. Rhea coming out to Motionless in White playing her entrance theme live. I've seen a lot of people popping over that. People I didn't even know were into wrestling, or might not even be into wrestling, but are into Motionless in White. You know, I've seen a lot of people excited about that, which I was as well. I love me some Rhea. Um, and then uh, oh man, I'm getting my nights confused. Either way, the big ones, were obviously you had the tag match between Cody and Seth versus Rock and Roman, which that was it went about how I thought it would, except way better than I thought it would be. Like it went how I expected it. Like the outcome, Rock, throwing his weight around, threatening to fire the ref. Um, I, however, was not expecting such a large portion of that match to be taking place in the crowd. That was dope. And then um, Rock was just, I mean, he was definitely rusty. He's not, he's not he's not in it all the time like he used to be. He definitely probably hurt himself. um, that said, I mean, he was out there, dude. He performed. He was pulling it off, and I was really impressed by how much he did. You know, I was expecting maybe he'd do a couple of specials, and then maybe take a few bumps, but nothing big. But no, he was out there. I mean, he was in it just like everybody else was. Him and Seth. Honestly, I think they were the best in that match. They were the highlights of that match because they were really going at it. Um, it was a good one. It was a really good one. Way better than I ever thought it was going to be. And then night two, obviously Seth came back, fought Drew, which, you know, he lost, unfortunately. I called it though. I mean, I knew he would, but still. And as soon as I saw that Punk was a commentator, I was like, yeah, Punk's gonna pull some shit, which he did. Shit being Drew off the table, um, and beat his ass. And then Damian Priest finally, after who even knows how long he's had that. Well, obviously he's had it since before I started watching again. He comes out, cashes in his Money in the Bank, um, gets the championship with little to no effort at all, which was I probably felt pretty good considering he lost the tag team to the Awesome Truth the night previous. Which I'm so glad my boy Truth got his moment. I love our Truth. Um, I'm so glad that he got his WrestleMania moment, and man, he deserved it. It was a long time coming. That was a sick match too. I keep forgetting that happened. The only thing that sticks out in my mind about that match was our Truth winning, but that whole match was awesome. Um, but then the real big pop for for WrestleMania was the main event of night two, Universal Championship on the line. I mean, there's the obvious things for those of you who watch WrestleMania, or wrestling in general, but even up to that point, like the first 2/3, I would say, of that match, it was just Cody and Roman going at it, and they were going at it hard, dude. I mean, they were beating the shit out of each other, and it was a great match. I mean, even if all of the stuff that happened at the end of that didn't happen, we still got the rest of it, which was a a great headliner match in general on its own. And then you get Jimmy and Jay coming out, and you know, tackling each other off of the ramp into the whatever that was off to the side, which was fun. And then you get Solo coming out and Cody catching the spike and the spear at the same time, which didn't look like it had as much impact as it could have, but whatever. Um, and then John coming out to stop Solo, which I had both of my kids sitting in my lap when we were watching that, and I popped loud as hell. my scared my youngest. Um, I was excited though because John Cena's been my favorite since I was a kid. When I was little watching wrestling, John was like he was my hero. I was obsessed with the guy, and now I love him for his movies. Like I love him for Peacemaker. I love him for Blockers. I love him for Ricky Stenicki. He's hilarious and he's great. Um, but uh, and then Rock comes out. We get that. It wasn't really a rematch, but we get that face off again. And then Undertaker shows up for why? I don't know, because it was awesome, probably. He shows up, chokeslams Rock, which happened since the early 2000s. I don't know, I haven't kept up, but and then uh, it was just one thing after another, and then finally Cody hits the crossroads 3 times in a row. Boom, gets it. He wins. It was such a pop, and there was so much. I mean, I was feeling it. I was in it. I was excited. I was emotional. Everybody came out to congratulate him, especially seeing Randy come out to congratulate him, considering their history. But I didn't really start feeling it until Mama Rhodes came in the ring and he handed her that belt, and she teared up, and I was like, oh god. Mama Rhodes got me again. But yeah, no. WrestleMania 40 was a hell of a WrestleMania. This is the first time I've seen this is the first WrestleMania I've watched live since WrestleMania 2012. That Rock versus Cena. It's the only WrestleMania I've seen previous, and then we get it again, sort of, but good this time. It's crazy how big Cody Rhodes is now. It's insane. Like thinking about who he was back when I first started watching, he was running around in the Legacy, and then he was Stardust, fucking Stardust, and then stupid mask on, and now he's the guy. He's one of the biggest baby faces in the history of the sport. I, I don't know where else could you get something like that but professional wrestling. Um, but yeah, and I think with that we'll call it because it's already almost 20 minutes longer than most of these go. So yeah, we'll see you guys next week. Um, maybe next week I'll have I won't spend so long talking about X-Men, and we'll actually talk about we'll have uh, a sort of segment. I'm kind of working on something. I don't know how well it's gonna come out. I'm thinking about doing some kind of like a ranking or a tier list type thing. Um, I don't know. We'll see. Um, I wouldn't even know what to rank necessarily, but uh, I'll work on that. If anybody has or thoughts, let me know in the comments. I suppose. Not that any of these get comments, but yeah, that'll be it for this week. I'll see you guys next week, and have a good one. See ya.